week with a pretty significant cool down. We spent the Christmas holiday in the past couple of days in the 70s. By tomorrow, it's definitely going to feel more like winter, but even beyond the cool down, I want to talk to you a little bit about what to expect for your New Year's holiday in case anybody is traveling, and kind of up until next weekend, what you can look out for. So I'm going to give us a second for our stream to hit YouTube and Facebook. So if anybody has any comments or questions while we are going, I can make sure I see those and answer those for you. Hopefully, I hope everybody has been enjoying the weekend. If you have been a fan of more of this warmer weather, today was kind of the last day to take advantage of it. It is a bit breezy out there. We have a wind advisory in effect. We'll talk more about that in a second as well. But again, just wanted to give another second or two for people to join us on all of the platforms that our stream goes on. So if there are any questions, I don't leave anybody out. As always, you can text us at 501-376-1111. I have that line up as well for your questions to go over what's coming up this week. So I'm going to start with a look across some of the middle south, deep south, and some of the southern plains. We've got a cold front that is starting to work its way into northwest Arkansas. This is coming out of the plains where there's some very, very cold temperatures, as you'll see here in a bit. As you see, if you can make it out just to the south of our banner, there's a little bit of snow falling near Wichita, Kansas. Now the good news is we're not expecting any wind-free weather as this front moves through the state, but you see a few showers through central Arkansas and into Louisiana and some of southwest Mississippi this afternoon. The main impact we're seeing in the state right now, of course, is increased wind speeds and pretty overcast, guys. We got some thick clouds out there across pretty much all of the state. Looks like there has been a little bit of shower moving between kind of Little Rock and Conway over to the east through Searcy. Not a whole lot of rain accumulation expected to be picked up today, but there will be the opportunity for a little bit more rain towards southeastern Arkansas later this evening as this front keeps pushing south and east. Let's look at our current wind speeds, because winds are definitely starting to pick up in northwestern Arkansas. Up in Fayetteville, wind gusts of nearly 45 miles an hour. Fort Smith around 40-mile-an-hour wind gusts. Similar story for Harrison. Now the wind advisory that we have in effect is for the whole state today, where we could see wind gusts up to 45 miles an hour, but we're seeing some of the heaviest winds right now to our northwest, where that front is starting to approach. Closer to central Arkansas, some of the highest wind gusts we're reporting right now, 30-mile-an-hour wind gusts in Hot Springs and in Pine Bluff. Don't have a current observation for wind gusts in Little Rock, but sustained winds are around 15 miles an hour. Monticello, Arkadelphia wind gusts upwards or over 20 miles an hour. So we'll continue to see pretty gusty winds through the afternoon. I'll actually walk through that with you in a second. Just want to go over all of our currents to help give you a clear picture of where that cold front is. Now these are current temperatures and wind chill values. Right now, because the front hasn't started working its way through the state, these numbers are nearly the same, but by the time we check in tonight at 10 and we're starting to see some of that colder air work its way in, there will be a difference between the air temperature and the wind chills. What I also want you to pay attention to is the shading of your map. You see for much of the state of Arkansas, and then our neighbors south and east is more of an orangey red color, but to our north and west, draped through portions of Oklahoma, you see that yellow into that blue. That's indicating that cold air mass that is on the way with that cold front. So Fayetteville right now 68 degrees compared to towards our south, you got places like Monticello, Texarkana, 77 degrees. Even Fort Smith, just south of that cold air boundary, still maintaining 79 degrees. So over the next couple of hours, we will see some changes in the state. You could get a clearer view of the difference in those temperatures behind the front and ahead of the front, looking more so at a regional view over in the plains. You know, earlier on that map where we saw the precipitation, it's snowfalling near Wichita, Kansas. Current wind chill values in the single digits up there, 7-degree wind chill value. Kansas City just to our north with a wind chill of 8 degrees right now. Garden City, Kansas, 13-degree wind chill. Even a little farther north, just to the south of that banner we have at the top that says wind chill, just below that, you got some readings coming out of Nebraska where it feels like temperatures in Lincoln, Nebraska are in the negatives. And again, compared to that, well ahead of that front in the south, feels like 72 in the capital city. Feels like 80 degrees in Greenville, Mississippi, even to our south, Houston, with a feels like of 85. So we'll be watching through the next several hours through the rest of the evening, this cold air spilling in as that front makes its trip south and east. I mentioned earlier we do have a wind advisory in effect. It has been extended to include all of the state, and it's also been extended to run through 6 a.m. Monday. So if you were watching any of our newscasts last night, when it was first issued, it was just until midnight. The National Weather Service has extended it to 6 a.m. Monday because it does look like we'll continue to see some very gusty winds through your overnight hours. And as I mentioned earlier, once that colder air starts to work its way into the state, and then we continue to have these really breezy winds, tomorrow morning wind chill values are going to be significantly colder. So we'll talk about that as well, but I want to start with kind of an overview of how winds start to evolve through the afternoon, because I know a lot of people probably still have outdoor Christmas decorations, and if you have not already made accommodations to secure things or take things down, at least in central Arkansas, southern Arkansas, you may have a couple more hours before wind speeds really start to pick up. So around 6 o'clock, could see wind speeds closing in, or wind gusts, closing in on 30 to 40 mile an hour between kind of Little Rock Metro and into the Arkansas River Valley and north central Arkansas. By 10 o'clock, when we're checking in for your nightly news, starting to see some of those gustier winds moving into southeastern Arkansas. Through your overnight hours, could continue to see wind gusts upwards of 25, 30 miles an hour. This is a look at Monday morning. I know we don't necessarily have kids going to school because you're still on winter break, but if you have to get up early for work and maybe you need to drop the kids off with a babysitter, or even if you're just getting out, you're going to want to bundle up, because wind gusts up to 15, 20 miles an hour with temperatures near or below the freezing mark, that is going to feel very cold. We'll talk more about temperatures in a second, but another thing to note this evening, especially if you live in north central Arkansas areas north and east of like Clinton to Mountain Home and then over towards Jonesboro, some of these thunderstorms tonight could produce some marginally severe winds. 60-mile-an-hour wind gusts possible for extreme northeastern Arkansas. I do think closer to central and southern Arkansas will at best see those wind gusts up to 40 or 45 miles an hour, but strongest wind gusts are expected as the front is sweeping through your part of the state. Obviously, you have those rain showers and thunderstorms developing ahead of the front. This is a look at the state right now, again, seeing the difference of temperatures to our northwest compared to our southeastern part of the state. This is our HER model. This isn't exactly nailing what's happening right now with temperatures or with precipitation, but this gives us an idea of the trend that's expected. Through 6 o'clock, looks like we start to get more of a linear formation with some showers and maybe a few thunderstorms in that line ahead of the cold front. Some of that colder air is starting to spill into the state as well. By 10 o'clock, when we're checking in for your nightly news, as indicated by the direction of this wind that we see, everything coming from the northwest, it does look like that front is starting to exit the state as we're checking in tonight at 10, and the rain will be following along with it. I do think as early as midnight we'll have the all clear with all of the rain in the state, but then beyond 10 o'clock and midnight, things just get colder overnight into your Monday. As I mentioned, temperatures, the color or the numbers in the darker blue, they're going to be near or just below the freezing mark. So lower 30s, some upper 20s within those wind gusts that we saw earlier with that wind gust forecast. Wind gusts up to 15 and 20 miles an hour are going to make even colder wind chill values, which is the numbers in the lighter blue. So waking up tomorrow morning in Little Rock, it's going to feel like 23 degrees. Same story for Stuttgart. Searcy feeling like 21 degrees in the morning. Clinton and Batesville feeling like the teens in the morning. Harrison and Mount Home going farther north, feeling like the teens. 10 degree feels like in Harrison, 12 degree feels like in Mountain Home. And you know, if you got friends or neighbors up in Fayetteville, single digit feels like in the morning. So definitely a jarring difference coming from this morning or even yesterday morning or what we saw for Christmas. It's going to get significantly colder into the overnight hours. Before I keep going, I see we do have a few comments on some of our platforms that I want to make sure I answer. Somebody asked if we should be expecting snow. I don't think we are expecting any snow. Honestly, not expecting a whole lot of precipitation. It's going to be very spotty in coverage. Somebody did ask if there's a risk for severe weather. Low end risk for extreme northeast Arkansas. So think locations north and east of Clinton and Mountain Home, closer towards Jonesboro and out of the state. And this is really only for those gusty winds. Could see 60-mile-an-hour wind gusts and any storms that are strong enough. Otherwise, it's still going to be windy as the front is sweeping through. That's why we have a wind advisory in effect for the whole state. So I do think the main hazard, if any, that we'll see this evening as the cold front is sweeping through, is just going to be some very breezy winds, which is why I mentioned if you have not already done the work to secure any of your outdoor holiday decorations that might be left over for Christmas, you got a little bit of time the farther south and east you live in the state to take care of that before the front actually starts to sweep through. Let me make sure I'm not missing any more questions from any of our platforms before I keep going. Okay, it looks like I have covered questions so far. Again, if you have any more, you can answer them. But again, wanting to take you back to a view of where the front is right now. It is just starting to kind of enter the state from the northeast, so some areas that might be feeling some gusty winds and the impact of that front closing in. Fayetteville, Harrison, I think even Fort Smith wind speeds could be starting to pick up there as well. This is what that looks like right now. 40-mile-an-hour wind gusts between Harrison and Fort Smith. Fayetteville, nearly 45-mile-an-hour wind gusts. So that clearly is where we're seeing the cold front impacting right now. So I do think, again, you got a couple hours if you live closer to a Little Rock or Hot Springs or even a Pine Bluff, that if you're fearful in any way of any of your outdoor holiday decorations flying away, you got time before things start to pick up. This is what it looks like at 6 o'clock. Upwards of 30 to 35-mile-an-hour wind gusts between some areas like Little Rock, Hot Springs. Batesville could start to see some 40-mile-an-hour wind gusts, Clinton and Russellville. So definitely want to before the sun sets. I think that's a good rule of thumb, because sunset is just before 5 o'clock. If you have not taken the time to do so already, and you have any outdoor inflatables or any loose decorations outside, secure those, because things could get a bit windy overnight. But again, luckily no concern for winter weather with this, no concern much for severe weather with this. The main impact is just going to be this cool down we see going into the top of the new week. Not the best for people that get sick easily with the change of weather, but luckily this won't be the case for too long. Again, this is a look at Monday morning with temperatures in the lower 30s, I think to some of southern Arkansas, even some middle 30s. But when you factor in those gusty winds, it's going to feel like the 20s for much of the state. This is Monday morning. If we could take this image full for people that might want to see their location. So this is what we're expecting just before sunrise, when we see temperatures kind of bottom out for the morning, feeling like the teens for some of northern and northeastern Arkansas. Some of northwest Arkansas could have feels like temperatures closing in on the single digits. So that's why we've been putting so much emphasis on this cold front that's sweeping through today. Even though there's not a concern for severe weather, even though there's not a concern for winter weather, we've been setting record highs for the past couple of days, and to go from that to feels like of 16 degrees or 10 degrees, that is going to be pretty significant. And I pinpoint areas like Harrison specifically, because if you were watching last night, we were talking about Harrison set a new all-time December high for the city of Harrison. They got up to 85 yesterday. So in a span of 36 to 48 hours, going from 85 degrees to the 20s, but feeling like the teens, that is pretty significant. The good news is it does get a little bit colder before it gets warmer. And I say it gets colder because we've got this pressure gradient right now, which is what's giving us those gusty winds. But then some high pressure starts to close in Tuesday into Wednesday. So air temperatures will fall a little bit, but feels like temperatures won't be as drastically different as they are on Monday because wind speeds will be calmer. So we will have a couple mornings Tuesday into Wednesday where we do wake up below freezing, likely in the 20s, but then we see a slight incline as we get into your New Year's Eve and New Year's Day and then into your first weekend of 2026. To put this in context of what's considered normal, average high going into this week is just right at the freezing mark. So Monday considered a near average morning in regards to temperatures, but obviously with those breezy winds, it's going to feel much colder. Well, it gets colder Tuesday into Wednesday, but winds won't be as breezy, so it won't feel any significantly colder, if it makes sense. And then things start to warm up once we get winds coming from the south again later on into the week. Let's put this in the context of how our afternoons look, because we've spent the past couple afternoons, really almost the last week of afternoons in the 70s, a lot of places even getting into the 80s Friday and yesterday. So tomorrow, I think 40 in Little Rock could even be optimistic. We might have a lot of neighbors, especially in north central Arkansas and northwest Arkansas, that have a hard time getting out of the 30s. But I think if you are kind of south of where I-40 splits through the state, you have a better chance of at least seeing some upper 30s, even flirting with 40 degrees. I do think into Tuesday we could see more of those lower and middle 40s, which is still considered below average. Right now, what is considered average in the afternoon is right at 50 degrees. But by New Year's Eve on Wednesday and then New Year's Day on Thursday, we're back considered above average, but I do think closer to the ballpark of what's considered average than we were for Christmas, because Christmas average highs weren't that far off either. Now there will be another dip slightly into Friday where we'll see more of the lower 50s, but then I think as we head into next weekend, the first weekend of 2026, we'll see more of those upper 50s kind of flirting with 60 degrees. It does look like, though, after this front swings through today, we say mainly dry for the week, maybe a stray shower on Friday, but not much to report in the rain department. And how I mentioned, average highs right now for Little Rock at least is right at 50 degrees. Going into January 1st on Thursday, we are right at what's considered our bottom, our pit, our valley, if you will, for high temperatures or average high temperatures throughout the year. Obviously, we're in the middle of meteorological winter where those climate normals reflect more of a winter pattern. We see the valley with those afternoon highs and what's considered normal between the end of December going into January 1st and the middle part of January. So as we get into the second half of January, what's considered our baseline, our normal, is going to start to warm up. So even with us getting into those upper 50s this weekend, that's considered abnormal, if you will. By the end of January, closing in on February, that'll be a little bit closer to what's considered the norm. I'm going to give you an overview at this week because I know we've talked about quite a lot. Of course, today, a few places farther south and east in the state, well, I think all of us in the state have been able to at least touch 70 degrees, maybe some lower to middle 70s ahead of that front working its way through the state. That it's going to work its way through the rest of the state overnight, or really after sunset through overnight. I think it's out of here by the time we hit midnight, and then the impact will be colder air spilling in for your Monday morning. So we wake up Monday morning in the upper 20s and low 30s, but feeling like the teens because we will continue to have some breezy winds, looking to at least warm up in the afternoon, mainly for a lot of people to the 30s, could flirt with 40 degrees though for central and southern Arkansas. Tuesday morning, Wednesday morning, we are waking up below freezing because we'll be in the vicinity of some high pressure. That high pressure is going to calm the winds down, but when it calms the winds down and we don't have a lot of cloud cover overnight, that helps all of our heat escape. So it'll still feel cold on those mornings, but wind speeds not as high are going to help things feel a little bit more like the air temperature. I do think going into your New Year's Eve, we are expecting mostly sunny to partly sunny skies, looking to see a few more clouds for the first day of 2026, but still in the middle to upper 50s. And then going into the first weekend of the new year, going to continue to see some middle and upper 50s with some pretty cloudy conditions, maybe some light opportunities for rain by the end of next weekend. But if that's all we have to talk about with precipitation after today, I think we'll be doing good for the next week. So coming up now on 2:49:30. Usually try to keep these around 20-25 minutes. I don't think I see any new questions. So with no more questions, I hope y'all enjoy the rest of your Sunday. If you can, make time to join us for our newscast at 5:30 and 10. I'll have more check-ins with the forecast. We'll be talking about how that front is working its way through the state, as well as what to expect for the rest of the evening and for the week ahead. In the meantime, I hope y'all are enjoying today, you're staying safe, and I'll see you at 5:30.